Hello soulmates, welcome to another interesting tutorial. So in this video we're going to learn how to make this beautiful dress. Yes, it's a Bubu dress, ruched on the center front, fittings on the waistline, and doesn't have side seams. So this is Sew with Marriott YouTube channel and I welcome you. So let's dive in. Now, to make this dress, you'll be needing a very light fabric, not too light, but something that can flow easily. So I got a Duchess fabric and I got 3 yards of it. I ended up using 2 3/4 total of it. But to make your dress, to fold it to the required allowance and all that, you'll be using 2.5 inches first. So you're going to cut out 2.5 inches from the 3 yards you must have bought. But if you ask me today again to make this dress, I would prefer to use about 2 yards because I felt that was too big for me, for my own size. Though maybe for a bigger person it would have been that 2.5, because that 2.5 ended up to be about 90 inches all around, right? So I went ahead to fold my fabric into 4 places. Now, this dress I'm making will not have a side seam. The only opening on the side will be the sleeve, but the opening all the way down will be on the center front. So on my left now is my center front and my center back. The part on fold is the center back, while the open part is the center front. While on my right is the side. This is the point where I'll be opening up the sleeve, okay? So now I'm going to go ahead to mark, just like I said earlier, this is your center front, this is your center back, right? Your center front and your center back is on this point. The upper part is your shoulder line, and this area will be marking the neckline. Then on this side is where the sleeve will set in, although we are not opening all the way to the down on the side, okay? So let's mark. So I'm going to mark the neckline. I'll come down about 6 inches there or 7 inches. You can also go ahead to increase it later because I did. Then on the shoulder line, I marked 3 inches, then connected it all the way down. So be marking that of the back. So the neckline for the back, you come down by 1 inch and connect, okay? So by the time I cut it off, you see the difference. So next we'll be looking for the shoulder point, okay? But before then, I'm going to go ahead to cut off the selvage of this fabric because it's kind of squeezing the fabric together. So this is to bring it to your notice that this part on the shoulder line is the selvage line, okay? So after cutting it out, I went ahead to remark the neckline that I did, okay? So you're looking for your shoulder point next. Start from your center front and mark it. So whatever that is left there becomes your sleeve length, right? But your sleeve has to have an opening. So that's what we'll create on that side line, like I said earlier. So what amount will you be needing? Because I want to have the elastic band there to create fullness, I'm going to be doubling my round sleeve measurement. So my round sleeve measurement is 12 inches. So 12 multiplied by 2 is 24. That means at the end of the day, one sleeve will have a total of 24, and I'll use my elastic band to bring it together to become my fitted sleeve. So I'm just trying to explain to you here that normally when making a sleeve, you divide your round sleeve into 2, right? But here we're using the whole amount of our round sleeve to get the normal fullness that we require, okay? So I marked all the way to 13 inches and I opened it up. So that extra 1 inch is for seam allowance. Just open it up to that point and stop. You're not opening it all the way down unless you want to have side seam in yours. So now I'm cutting my neckline. You can see how I cut out the back first, okay, before cutting out the front. I carefully went ahead to trim this part on the center front area because not equal. I went ahead to straighten it out and I made sure I was cutting just the center front and not with the back. So now we're going to be checking our length. So just measure from the top all the way down to know the length you have. So for me, I think I prefer to have the whole of this length here. So if you want yours shorter, you can go ahead and do that. What I have here is 60 inches all the way down. Okay, so I cut off the selvage there. then notched my points. I notched the side, I notched the center back, I notched the center back also at the top, and I notched the shoulder line area. So at this point we are done. Yeah, at this point we are done cutting. The next thing we're going to do now is to take this to our table so that I'll show you how you can go ahead to sew it. Now we are on the table. Let's see the sewing process is involved. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut out the band that I'll be using for the round sleeve. So the sleeve area, we need to cover it up with the band. Now remember that half yard that was remaining from our total fabric, we'll be cutting that band from there. But before then, we're going to go ahead to measure the sleeve, that part that we cut on the side. So you measure it all the way, one end to the other end. So I got about 26 inches there. So the fabric now will fold it into 4 places. So you fold the first time, I measured and I got about 30 inches. So you fold again because I'm folding selvage to selvage there. Then mark 3 inches downward, then cut it out. Since this is a long strip, I divided it into 2. So one will be for one sleeve, one will be for the other. We'll be placing this on fold when attaching it to our sleeve. So you'll be running it on your sleeve like so, from one end to the other. Okay, from one end to the other. So to help the fabric relax, we'll be creating a triangular notch on the edge like so that when you sew it will be able to relax perfectly. So all you have to do is open up that point, notch to the left and notch to the right to have a triangular notch. Then you go ahead and sew the band to the sleeve. And I've gone ahead to sew it at this point, and I've also weaved the seam allowances there. So I'm going to flip this over to show you how it looks like. Okay, so it's going to be shoulder line facing shoulder line because you're flipping upward to the shoulder line, and you have the side this way without the seam, and you have the sleeve popping out on the band area there. So this is how it will look like at the end of the day. Okay, so because of that notch we created, we're able to have this sleeve part to be relaxed at the side line of our dress. Now flipping it to this angle, this is how it looks like. Okay, now this is the wrong side facing wrong side. Okay, I'm just trying to show you how the dress should look like when you're done. So now it's the right side that is facing me. So the shoulder line should touch the shoulder line. That's shoulder line for the front should match up with the shoulder line for the back. Yes, your shoulder line becomes your center of focus here. So we're going to attach our elastic band into that band that we just made on the sleeve. So you cut out the amount that can stretch to the edge. Okay, so here I cut out 11 inches. Okay, plus my seam allowance and everything. Then that's 22 in total. Then cut it into 2, one for one sleeve, one for the other sleeve. Then I went ahead and used my safety pin to insert the elastic band all the way through. So you go ahead and secure this. So I went ahead to do that of the other sleeve and secured it. So next is to join the shoulder line. So you're going to match it up. So match it up, right side facing right side, you match it up to expose the wrong side. Okay, so the wrong side should be facing you at this point. So you take this to your sewing machine and sew down all the way to the neckline. So sew from your sleeve point to the neckline. So you sew from the sleeve point to the neckline area. So I'll go ahead and do that now. So here I'm done, and this is it. This is what we have so far, looking so fine. So if you have a weaving machine, you can go ahead and weave that edge down at this point. So placing it over, this is what we have so far. And next we're going to be turning the neckline with our bias. So you can use your fabric to turn, but here I'm using an already made bias to turn it. So I'll just go ahead and turn it all the way. But before then, this was the point where I went ahead to increase that V on the neckline. So I increased it a little bit, just blending it into the opening that I have there. That's the center front opening. Then for safety's sake and for neatness, I came down about 10 inches, that's like my bust point, to start off the sewing of the bias. So the essence of this is to create a neckline which the head will be able to pass through. So I went ahead to sew it down at this point, and I notched after sewing the first part down. You know how you attach your bias, you sew first then before turning. So I notched the neckline so as to relax the curve there by the time I turn. So I turned it this way and took it to my sewing machine and sewed down all the way. Okay, and here it is. Here is our neckline. So next we're going to be sewing this all the way down. We're sewing down the center front now at this point. So what you're going to do is to align the center front properly, starting from the neckline, that V neckline that we have created. Match up the shoulder line, then match up the neckline, then you sew in a V shape on that point all the way to the hemline. Okay, so I just pinned it and I flip to this other side so that I can move the fabric easily. So from that V point, you're going to sew all the way to the hemline. So we're sewing this down, and this is what we have at the end of the day. So you can see how I slanted the sewing. So this is it. I slanted into the edge like so to create that finishing. So I went ahead to weave that point down. So after weaving, it's time to create our ruche, that's our ruffles in the front. And to achieve this, I went ahead to measure all the way from my shoulder point to the point where I want that slit-like effect to stop. That's that curve in the front to stop. So you find the point and mark it down. Then you measure from the neckline area, the V neckline area, all the way to that point again to know the amount of elastic band you'll be using. So whatever you have gotten from that point will be the amount of your elastic band. So you place your elastic band and cut it out. Though I later reduced this elastic band by 5 inches because the weight of the fabric will drag it to a longer length after sewing, and I want more curve on the lower part in that center front area. That's our slit like curve, right? I wanted more length there. So here now I'm attaching the elastic band to the center front area on the V neckline point. You also take it all the way to the hemline and pin it down. At this point, I'll advise that you hem your dress before attaching your elastic band, okay? It's much easier. So now we're going to flip over and we're taking this to our sewing machine to stitch down. Now after stitching down, it's the elastic band that will do the work of pulling that fabric up to create that curve in the front for you, right? It's the elastic band that will do the job for you. Now to make the sewing of this elastic easier and to even it out with the fabric, create about 3 or 4 markings on the elastic band, equal markings. Then create that same markings, equal markings again on the fabric. Then pin down these points to match up with the fabric and the elastic band. Now the elastic band will be shorter. That's why it is an elastic bag. You have to now stretch it out when you are sewing. When you even out these points, the work becomes easier. I lost the clip to that. That's why I'm explaining it now. So after doing that, I started the sewing process. So the sewing process, you are going to flip to the right side of your fabric, and from the ditch of your seam line on the center front, you'll be attaching the elastic band to the fabric or to the dress. So that center front line now is where my stitch is entering while I stretch out my elastic from the under. Okay, so because I was able to even out the stretch at each point, I created about 4 points and pinned down. When evening the elastic band to the fabric, I'm able to have more control over that elastic band. Okay, so you keep stretching and sewing, and making sure you sew on your ditch line, that's the seam line, into your seam line. So keep sewing and making sure we even everything out equally. So until you get to the end here and you back stitch. So far, this is what we have. Okay, this is what we have here. Yeah, so I used a 1 inch size elastic band here for this dress. I feel it will hold the fabric firmer compared to a smaller size. So back on the table, this is what we have so far, looking so neat and beautiful. So next we are going to snatch the waistline. Let me show you how to snatch that waistline. So you're going to turn the fabric or flip the fabric to the wrong side, and here we're going to find our body side line. So I used my waist measurement divided by 2, which is 16. I placed 8 on the midpoint, marked to the left, and I marked to the right. So 8 inches to the left, 8 inches to the right. So that's the point where the band will be sewn. It's going to serve as a guideline for sewing in the band. Yeah, so using the band, and this band I made it out of a lining fabric, and I'm using black color because I want it to stay invisible when it's tied under the dress. So it will be sewn, and when you put on the dress it will be tied to your back, and this will give us that snatching effect that we're looking for. So after finishing, the size of the band is 6.5 inches by 27. So I made it 6.5 so that it will come down a little and snatch me more. So here on the fabric, we're going to mark where the band will start off from. So I'm going to be starting off from my waistline. So you can start from your underbust, you can start 15 inches, 16, this depending on how much snatching effect you want to add. I think I started around 15 inches, that's after my underbust. So you go ahead and pin it down and make sure it aligns to that 8 inches for your side line, okay, your natural side line. So whatever you have marked on this part, you want to take it to the other part. So I went ahead and marked mine. So I took note of the points, then placed my fabric. So you want to make sure you start at your side line, whatever your side line measurement is, start at that point to pin down. But I can also say that your side line is your waist measurement divided by 4 if you're measuring from your center front. So you go ahead and sew this down, making sure you sew only to your front fabric, okay? And here we are done. So when you put this on, you're going to tie this over to the back part. So go ahead and hem your dress and it is ready. Yes, mine is ready to be rocked, and this is it, looking so beautiful on me. Can you see how the back flows and the front also flows very, very easily? And this is because of the nature of the fabric. So one thing I love about this dress is the fact that it doesn't have a side seam, okay? So I can't wait to see the result of yours and how yours looks like. Thank you for staying with me to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next video. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Also drop your comments in the comment section below. Bye bye.